Bruce Lee was filming when overconfident fighter laughed, 5 seconds later ruined the challenge on the film set. The scorching Hong Kong sun burned down on the Game of Death set, and Bruce Lee fine-tuned the fight choreography with his stunt double, Dan Inosanto. The scene required precision, a fluid, almost dancing combat, where each movement had to convey the philosophy of Jeet Kune Do. But something was wrong. Among the extras, a local wrestler named Kai the Dragon of Kowloon looked on with a smirk. He was known in underground circles for his victories in underground fights, where his brutal style of Muay Thai left opponents on the ground in seconds. Kai didn't believe in martial arts. For him, fighting was just pure violence, and Bruce Lee, with his choreographed movements, was nothing more than an actor. "That's just dancing, it's not fighting," muttered Kai, loud enough for some of the team members to hear. "If you want to see real combat, you should call me." Bruce listened. "I didn't say anything." He just kept adjusting the details with Inosanto, as if the comment had no weight. But his eyes, cold and calculating, fixed on Kai for an instant. He knew the type, arrogance disguised as confidence, the same type of man he had faced hundreds of times in the rings of Seattle and Oakland. The director, Raymond Chow, tried to intervene. "Kai, please respect Mr. Lee's work. This is not the place." "Respect?" Kai laughed, crossing his arms. "Respect is winning in the ring, not in front of the cameras." Bruce finally turned around, walking towards him with light, almost feline steps. "Do you think fighting is just strength?" he asked, his voice calm, but with an edge of steel underneath. "That there is no technique, no strategy, no mind?" Kai snorted. "Technique is for those who don't have the courage to hit hard." Bruce smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "Then show me." The set fell silent. Raymond Chow opened his mouth to protest, but Bruce raised his hand for silence. 5 seconds. "If you can touch me, I'll pay your fee for the day. If not, you get out of here and never open your mouth about martial arts in front of me again." Kai hesitated for a second. He was heavier, stronger, and his Muay Thai was relentless. But Bruce Lee was Bruce Lee. Still, the arrogance spoke louder. "Done." The technicians moved away, creating an improvised circle. Bruce took off his shirt, revealing his chiseled body, every muscle defined as if it were carved from marble. Kai flexed his arms, snapping his fingers. "I'm going to break you in two, movie star." Bruce didn't respond. He just assumed the guard stance, his feet light, his knees slightly bent, his eyes fixed on his opponent. Kai advanced. The first blow was a direct punch, quick but predictable. Bruce dodged with minimal movement of his torso, as if the air around him protected him. The second attack was a low knee, typical of Muay Thai. Bruce jumped back, avoiding it by inches, and countered with a side kick that hit Kai's side, making him grunt. 2 seconds, Bruce muttered, without missing a beat. Kai growled and attacked with a barrage of punches. Bruce blocked some, dodged others, and when Kai left an opening, a roundhouse kick connected with his chin. The impact was dry, like a whip. Kai staggered but didn't fall. 3 seconds. Kai spat out blood and smiled, his teeth red. "Now you'll see what real fighting is." He attacked again, this time with a spinning punch, trying to surprise. Bruce ducked, letting the blow go over his head, and responded with a series of quick punches to Kai's abdomen. The fighter doubled over, panting, but still standing. 4 seconds. Kai tried to recover, but Bruce was already on the move. A front kick connected with his chest, sending him backwards. He fell onto his back, the air escaping his lungs with a guttural sound. Bruce approached, looking down at him. 5 seconds. Kai tried to stand up, but his legs wouldn't respond. He coughed, spitting out more blood. "Son of..." Bruce crouched down beside him, his voice low, almost a whisper. "Fighting isn't just strength. It's timing. It's precision. It's knowing when to attack and when to retreat. You have talent, but talent without discipline is like a blunt sword, beautiful, but useless. Kai closed his eyes, embarrassed. Bruce stood up and turned to the team. Let's get back to work. No one else dared to challenge him on that set. In the following days, Kai appeared at the filming location, no longer as a provocateur, but as a spectator. He watched Bruce train, studied his movements, and, in secret, began training with Inosanto, absorbing the principles of Jeet Kune Do. Years later, he would become one of Bruce's few advanced students, and his story would be told as an example of how even the most arrogant of fighters can be humbled and transformed. But that day, under the scorching Hong Kong sun, the myth of Bruce Lee grew even more. And Kai the Dragon of Kowloon learned, the hard way, that some lessons are only taught with blood, sweat, and 5 seconds of truth. Dragon's Legacy. The months that followed were one of silent but profound transformation. Kai, once a feared name on the streets of Kowloon, was now seen in a different light, no longer as the invincible fighter, but as the man who had been broken and rebuilt. Bruce, in turn, did not treat him with disdain, but with an almost paternal curiosity. One afternoon, after a grueling training session, Bruce took him aside. You have talent, Kai. But talent without discipline is like a dull knife, beautiful, but useless. Kai hung his head, still embarrassed by the public humiliation. I don't want to be just another fighter. I want to be like you. Bruce laughed, a dry sound without malice. No one is like me. Not even I am like me. Jeet Kune Do is not a style, it is a mirror. It reflects who you are, not who you want to be. And so, Kai began to train for real. No longer to prove something to others, but to understand yourself. Inosanto, who had witnessed the fight, became his mentor, guiding him by the principles of styleless style. Kai learned to flow, to adapt, to not fear chaos. And, little by little, something unexpected happened. He began to overcome his own limitations. Meanwhile, the set of Enter the Dragon was buzzing. Filming progressed, but not without setbacks. The studio, pressured by deadlines and budgets, insisted on increasingly risky scenes. Bruce, however, refused to give in. In a fight sequence choreographed with Jackie Chan, then an unknown stuntman, a miscalculation caused Bruce's kick to hit Jackie too hard, knocking him to the ground. The young stuntman stood up in a daze, blood dripping from his lip, but he smiled. They've never hit me like that before. Bruce helped him get up, worried. Sorry. Sometimes I forget I'm too fast. Jackie laughed. Don't be sorry. It'll make me better. Bruce looked at him with a newfound respect. Here was someone who, like Kai, was undeterred by failure. Perhaps that's why, years later, Jackie would become a legend in his own right. But not everything was lessons in humility. Behind the scenes, tension between Bruce and the studio was growing. The producers wanted more violence, more exaggeration, more of what Bruce considered authentic. In a tense meeting, he threw the script on the table. This isn't cinema. It's circus. I'm not going to turn my art into clowning. The executive in front of him crossed his arms. Mr. Lee, the public wants a spectacle. If we don't give it to them, someone else will. Bruce stared at him for a long moment. Then let someone else do it. And so, Enter the Dragon became a different film than the studio imagined. More raw, more real. And, ironically, it was precisely this authenticity that made it a classic. Meanwhile, Kai continued his training. One night, after a particularly intense session, Inosanto told him something that would echo for years. Bruce didn't teach you how to fight. He taught you how to think. Kai thought about it. It wasn't just the blows, the dodges, the speed. It was the philosophy behind everything. The idea that the fight was not an end, but a means of knowing oneself. And for the first time, he understood why Bruce had accepted the challenge that sweltering afternoon, not to humiliate him, but to wake him up. Years later, when Bruce Lee was already a global icon and Enter the Dragon a cinematic landmark, Kai opened his own martial arts school in Hong Kong. He didn't just teach techniques, but the same lesson he had learned, that true strength is not in beating others, but in mastering yourself. And, one afternoon, an arrogant young man appeared at his gym, challenging him to a fight. Kai looked at him, the same fire in his eyes, the same arrogance that had once been his, and smiled. 5 seconds. If you can handle it, I'll teach you. The young man accepted. And when he fell to the ground, humiliated and panting, Kai reached out his hand to help him up. Because some lessons are only learned that way. With blood, sweat, and 5 seconds of truth. The awakening of the inner dragon. The young man was called Li Wei, and his downfall was not just physical. As he stood up, supported by Kai's outstretched hand, he felt something break inside him, not his bones, but his pride. The same pride that had made him challenge masters all over Hong Kong, certain that his impeccable technique and speed made him invincible. Now he looked at Kai with a mixture of anger and fascination. How, he asked, his voice trembling. I trained for years. You didn't even move properly. Kai smiled, the same serene smile that Bruce had once given him. Because you still think fighting is about technique. But the real battle is against what blinds you, fear, anger, the need to prove something. You didn't fall because of my strength. You fell because your own weight knocked you down. Li Wei clenched his fists, but there was no challenge left in them. Just a silent question. The following days were silent. Li Wei returned to the gym, but not to fight. I watched. Kai didn't kick him out, nor did he treat him with disdain. He just continued his training, correcting postures, teaching breathing, telling stories of his own mistakes. One of them, about a young man who was once humiliated by a foreign master, made Li Wei's eyes widen. You. Kai nodded. And I learned. As you will learn. But the path was not easy. Li Wei still carried the shadow of his defeat, and it consumed him. On a stormy night, when the gym was empty, he returned alone, determined to prove that he had evolved. He found Kai meditating in the center of the mat, motionless as a statue. This time, it won't be so easy, he growled, assuming an attacking stance. Kai opened his eyes. It was never easy. You were the one who wasn't ready. Li Wei moved forward. His punch was quick, accurate, but Kai wasn't there when he arrived. A trip knocked him down again, and this time, when he fell, he didn't get up immediately. He lay on the floor, panting, looking at the ceiling as the rain beat on the windows. Why don't you hate me? He asked, his voice broken. I challenged you. I wanted to destroy you. Kai walked over and crouched down beside him. Because I was once you. And because, deep down, you don't want to destroy me. You want to destroy what holds you back. Li Wei closed his eyes. He remembered all the times he had been rejected, how his family had called him a failure for not following the traditional path. He remembered the shame of always losing to someone who didn't deserve it. And then, for the first time, he cried. Not out of anger, but out of relief. Years passed. Li Wei became Kai's right-hand man, teaching new students the same lesson he had learned, that martial art is not about dominating others, but about not being dominated by oneself. The academy grew, and with it, Kai's fame as a master who did not train champions, but complete men and women. On a sunny afternoon, a new challenger appeared. He was a professional fighter, undefeated in competitions, with defined muscles and a look of disdain. Kai, now older, watched him calmly. 5 seconds, he said, as always. The fighter laughed. You're old, master. I'm going to break you in two. Kai didn't respond. He just assumed his stance. The fighter attacked with everything. And it fell. As he stood up, humiliated, he saw Li Wei standing next to Kai, with the same serene smile as his master. Welcome, said Li Wei, extending his hand. The lesson begins now. The weight of humility. The fighter, named Renzo Varga, slowly rose to his feet, his fists still shaking with rage. Sweat ran down his face, mixing with the dust on the mat. He was a man accustomed to winning, to crushing opponents with precise blows and brute strength. I had never fallen like this, without even understanding how. And the worst, in front of an old man and a student who hadn't even moved to intervene. That was luck, he growled, wiping the blood from his lip with the back of his hand. Kai didn't move. He just took a deep breath, as if the air around him carried a truth that Renzo still couldn't see. Luck doesn't exist on the road, he said, finally. There is only what you have not seen. Renzo snorted, but something in his chest burned. It wasn't just the shame. It was something deeper, a doubt he had never dared to face. He had built his career on the certainty that strength was everything. Now, faced with that instant defeat, he felt the ground move beneath his feet. Li Wei, still with his hand outstretched, waited. You can leave, he said, with a gentleness that irritated Renzo even more. Or you can stay and learn why you fell. Renzo looked at Li Wei's hand, then at Kai. The master didn't seem threatening, or even challenging. Just present. As if he already knew what was coming next. With a grunt, Renzo grabbed Li Wei's hand and let himself be pulled up. A week, he said, harshly. I'm going to train here for a week. If I don't learn anything, I'll leave and never come back. Kai nodded, as if he had already expected this. A week can change a life, he replied. Or confirm what you already know. The days of Renzo. In the first few days, Renzo fought against everything. Against breathing exercises, which he considered a waste of time. Against posture training, which made him feel clumsy. Against the younger students, who, although less experienced, moved with a fluidity that he couldn't imitate. You're fighting yourself, Li Wei said, as Renzo punched the punching bag furiously. It's not the bag that needs to be defeated. Shut up, Renzo growled, without stopping. But on the fourth day, something changed. He was exhausted, his muscles burning, when Kai called him for sparring. Renzo expected another demonstration of superiority, another humiliating fall. Instead, Kai moved slowly, almost lazily, inviting him to attack. Renzo rushed forward with a straight punch, as he always did. Kai dodged with minimal movement, and Renzo felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. But this time it didn't fall. Kai grabbed his arm, keeping him upright. Why did you fall before? He asked. Renzo frowned. Because you knocked me down. No. You fell because you didn't see the ground beneath your feet. Renzo wanted to retort, but the words died in his throat. Something about that answer echoed inside him, like a bell that finally resonated at the right frequency. The last lesson. On the seventh day, Renzo woke up before dawn. The gym was empty except for Kai, who was meditating in the center of the mat. You're leaving today, Kai said, without opening his eyes. Renzo hesitated. I still don't understand. Kai finally looked at him. You understand more than you think. Just don't accept it. Renzo took a deep breath. Li Wei's words, the falls, the exercises that at first seemed meaningless, everything started to make sense. Not in your mind, but in your body. He felt lighter, more present. Less furious. Can I go back? He asked, surprising himself. Kai smiled. The door is always open. Renzo nodded. He picked up his backpack, but before leaving, he turned to Kai. Thanks. Kai tilted his head. Gratitude is a weight you still don't know how to carry. One day, you will learn. Renzo went out, feeling the morning sun touch his face. I didn't know what I would do next. I didn't know if I would return to competitions, if I would abandon everything. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to prove anything to anyone. Just walked. The legacy. Years later, Kai's gym was known not only for training fighters, but for transforming lives. Renzo Varca never competed again. Instead, he opened his own school, where he taught not just fighting techniques, but what Kai had taught him, that true strength lies in not needing to win. And one afternoon, when an arrogant young man entered his dojo challenging him, Renzo smiled. 5 seconds, he said. The young man laughed. And it fell.